Hello everyone, this week we are going to talk about price-taking firms and the competitive process. So first let's make a definition of price takers and price searchers. Price takers produce identical products, for example wheat, corn, soybeans, and because the firms are small relative to the market, each must take the price established in the market. So here the key point with the price takers is the identical product. There are not many examples in the economy for price takers, but agricultural commodities is a very good example. Just for example, think of that you are a farmer that you sell rice to the market. Since you are a farmer, you are a small producer and there are many farmers in the market. And in this market, there are many sellers because everybody consuming rice is a buyer. And as a farmer, since there are many farmers in the market, you are one of the many sellers in the market. I said identical products is the key point. The reason that you are a price taker is because you cannot differentiate your product. So you are selling exactly the same rice. Price searcher firms, on the other hand, produce products that differ. That's the key point. And therefore they can alter the price. So for instance, you are the farmer selling rice, but a company buys the rice from you and then packages rice into different packages, right? Let's say this is organic, this is non-GMO. If you can differentiate your product, then you can alter the price. In this case, the company buying rice from you, packaging it into different packages and labeling it differently can differ the product and they can charge their own price. The amount that the price searcher firm is able to sell is inversely related to the price it charges. Most real-world firms are price searchers. So if we don't have many examples of price takers, why we study the price takers? The competitive price taker model applies to some markets, such as agricultural products, as I said before, helps us understand the relationship between individual firms and market supply, and increases our knowledge of competition as a dynamic process. And these markets are also called purely or perfectly competitive markets. Remember, if you are selling identical products like farmers selling wheat, corn or rice, you are in purely competitive market because you have identical products. So what are the characteristics of price taker markets? So let's look at the demand curve for price takers. This is very important and I want you to understand. So we have two demand curves here. This one is for single firm or farmers demand. So this is the demand for farmers rice. And this is the market demand curve. That means demand for all farmers rice. Okay, all farmers. So as you see, market demand curve follows law of demand. Why it's downward sloping? When the prices are higher in the market for rice, then people buy less of rice. But when you look at the firm, a single firm or single farmer's demand curve, it's horizontal. It's horizontal at the market price. So this is the key point. Price taking assumption says that this farmer, let's say John, okay, sees this market price. He knows that the market price of a rice, let's say 1 pound of rice in the market is $2. So he needs to sell at $2, okay, at $2 each pound of rice. And if he does that, he can sell as many rice as he wants. That's what horizontal demand curve implies. But what if he increases his price by 10 cents and it's 2.10? Now he's going to lose all the customers. Why? Because this is perfectly elastic demand curve. Even there is a very small change in the price, all buyers in the market is going to switch to the next farmer. Because next farmer is selling the same product but this time $2 per pound. For that reason, this farmer John has no impact on the price. That's what we mean by price taking assumption. So is there a point that this farmer sells at 1.9? If he sells below $2, he's going to make a loss. Okay, in a competitive prices, the prices are so low that you just make normal profit. Okay, there is no point to decrease the price because at $2 you have many buyers in the market. But if you even make the price 2.10 cents, you are going to lose all your buyers. That's why it's horizontal. This demand curve is horizontal. So the price taker firm's demand curve is perfectly elastic. It is horizontal at the price determined in the market. If the price takers do not have an impact on the price, then how does the price taker maximize profit? So in order to understand the profit maximization, we need to first understand the term marginal revenue. What is marginal revenue? It is the change in total revenue divided by the change in output. So let's think about again Farmer John. What is the marginal revenue of selling additional pound of rice? Just ask yourself this question. Additional pound of rice. It's $2, right? Because when he sells additionally one more pound of rice, then he's making $2, which is the price. So in perfectly competitive markets, marginal revenue is equal to price. Okay? Price of the good itself. So now, this might be first confusing, this graph, but actually follow me, you will understand what we mean by profit maximization. Okay. First of all, we know that this is Farmer John's demand curve and it's horizontal at the market price. Let's say this is $2. This is the demand curve, right? But demand curve is equal to price. Therefore, demand curve is also marginal revenue curve. Remember, marginal revenue is equal to price. From the previous slide, we learned that. And now we need to find at which quantity, because there are too many quantities here, which quantity is the best for Farmer John to choose to maximize profit. Okay, we will use this argument. Remember, when we make a decision, we compare the benefit and the cost. In this case, selling one additional pound of rice, the benefit is marginal revenue, which is the price. So when you sell one additional pound, you earn $2. And the cost to produce that additional rice is called marginal cost. So we compare marginal revenue and marginal cost. If marginal revenue or the price, let's use this price because they are equal. If price is greater than marginal cost, let's say this is $2 and this is 1.8. So you are making a net benefit, net gain from selling that additional rice, right? Which is 20 cents. You are adding to your profit. You should continue to increase production at that point. If on the other hand, if price less than marginal cost, let's say price is $2 but marginal cost is 2.20, by producing this rice and selling it, you are making a 20 cents loss. You're paying from your pocket to be able to produce that rice 20 cents more and sell it at $2. So this doesn't make sense. You shouldn't produce this rice. You shouldn't sell this rice, but you should continue increase production at this point. You should decrease production when price is less than marginal cost. So if that is the case, what point we should choose? The point that marginal cost equals to price is the profit maximization point, or is the profit maximization quantity. Let's look at now on the graph. We say that MC should be equal to pre. If that is the rule, remember from college algebra, when two curves intersect, price and the marginal cost, they are equal. So this should be the point. This is profit maximization point. We need to find out at this point how many units the company or the firm or Farmer John should produce, which is Q. So the profit maximization quantity for this firm is Q. Find the point, MC equals P, and go down, read the output. Okay? And below Q, this way, price is higher than marginal cost. Look, red line is above the blue line, marginal cost. So increase output, increase Q in this direction. Look at here, to the right of the Q, here, in this direction. Price curve is less than marginal cost. Marginal cost is above here, price is here. You shouldn't produce that unit, so decrease quantity. Okay, so Q is profit maximization point. If Q is profit maximization point, which area represents the profit? So in order to calculate profit, we shouldn't look at marginal cost. We should look at all costs, right? Not only additionally producing 1 pound of rice. Marginal cost helps us to find the optimal quantity. But if we want to calculate the profit, then you need to consider all costs, because marginal cost doesn't include the fixed cost. So to calculate the profit, you need to find out what is per unit total cost, how much I spend per unit to make this production happen. So we are going to look at ATC curve. Okay, at quantity Q, ATC says that ATC curve, you go up to the ATC curve, and that at that quantity you spend C dollars. Let's say this is $1.8. Okay, so you are selling at price P $2 and cost is 1.8. So per unit, per one rice, you are making 20 cents. And you are selling Q units of rice. So this area represents your profit. So remember, the profit is P minus ATC times Q. Okay. First step is to find profit maximization quantity, which is when marginal cost equals to price. At that quantity, find out your ATC, how much you spend per unit to produce that rice, which is C dollars, and then subtract the cost from the price. That represents the profit per unit, but since you are producing Q units, profit per units times Q gives you the profit. So another way of profit maximization is to look at total revenue and total costs. You see on the screen total cost and total revenue. Let's look at this area first. Here in this area, total cost is greater than total revenue, so you are making a loss in this area. Here, the green shaded area, total cost is lower than total revenue, so you are making a profit. But this is an area, which quantity I should choose? You should choose the biggest difference, right, between total revenue and total cost. Let's say this is here. This is the quantity that you maximize your profit. So maximization, profit maximization means that profit is equal to total revenue minus total cost. So you want this difference the highest to maximize the profit. And again, this pink area, total cost is greater than total revenue, so you're making a loss. So let's look at this table. Here, when you produce 15 units, total revenue 75, total cost 64, you are making $11. Look other quantities. The highest difference is when you produce 15 units. We have two ways now, right? Profit maximization. We said that P equals MC. P also at the same time equals to MR. This is the first way. Second way is to find out the maximum difference between total revenue and total cost. Okay? You need to maximize. So these are the two ways, but they result the same quantity. Okay? Either you look at the total revenue and total cost and find the biggest difference between these two curves is one way, or another way is look at where MC equals MR. Both should result in the same quantity. Okay? So in this case, MC equals MR when 15 units are produced. So next topic that we are going to talk about, operating in the short run. And it is possible for perfectly competitive markets to operate with short run losses. So you can think about the market is not good now, but it's going to get better. Therefore, you continue to operate. But there are some rules you need to follow. Okay, in the short run, should you stop producing, which we call it shutdown, or continue to produce? So if you make losses, you have two options. Either you shut down or you continue to produce. So now we will understand which decision is better. Should we shut down the business for a temporary period of time, or we should continue to operate in the market in the short run when the market conditions are not good? So the firm operates at an output level. We know that it's marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Let's find it here. Marginal cost curve and the demand curve, they intersect here at point B. Okay. And at that point, let's look at the quantity. This firm is producing Q units, but at that point, the total cost or the per unit cost, average total cost, is C. So at quantity Q, the firm is spending C dollars, but earning P1 dollars. So there is a loss here, right? Per unit you are making, let's say C is 2.10 and P is 2, so you are making 10 cents per quantity. And for total quantity, you multiply this with Q, and this rectangular area is your loss. So, what we should do? We are making a loss. Should we keep the business open or should we shut down for this temporary period until the conditions get better? The key is, in the short run, we need to focus on ABC. As long as in the short run you can be able to cover your variable costs, which is operation costs, like labor, okay, to keep the business open, what you spend, then you should keep the business open, although you're not making a profit. If you cannot cover, keep it. If you cannot cover, then you should shut down in the short run. And if you divide this both sides by Q, you will find out that TR divided by Q, P times Q is TR, this is total revenue, divided by Q, VC divided by Q, P is greater than equal to ABC. If your price is greater than equal to average variable cost, then you should keep the business open in the short run. If it is less than average variable cost, you should keep the business closed for a short period of time. Let me give this example. Let's say you have a resort, okay, winter resort, and you know that summertime you don't have many customers, but winter time you are making profit. So the question is, should we keep the business open in the summer? Depends. Well, let's say for monthly you spend 75K for variable costs, for workers, for other stuff to keep the business open, and you have 50K fixed costs. You are paying for leasing the place per monthly. So summertime, if you are making 80K revenue, total revenue, it's best to keep this business open. Why? Because 80K can cover all the variable costs, so you can pay the wages of the workers. Plus you have some leftover, which is 5K, you can pay to cover some small portion of your fixed costs. But if you choose to shut down when you earn 80K, then you have to pay the fixed cost 50K because there's no variable cost when you keep the business shut down. So do you prefer to keep the business open and pay 45K because 5K you can use to pay the fixed cost, or do you prefer to pay 50K because you have to pay the lease even if you keep the business open? For sure 45K is better if, as you see the revenue here more than variable costs, then you should keep the business open. So the idea here is very simple. As long as you earn to cover your operating costs, which is variable costs, you should keep the business open. Otherwise, shut it down. Instead of you earn 80K, let's say you earn 50K. And the same cost, 75K and 50K. So if you keep the business open, that revenue cannot cover all of the variable costs. So you have to pay 25K from your pocket plus 50K from fixed cost, 75K loss. But if you shut down, you are going to only pay 50K. So you see, if your revenue less than your operational cost, which is variable cost, then definitely you should shut it down. So that is the idea. Given this, we are not going to use total revenue and total variable cost. We are going to use price and average variable cost to make the decision. Let's look at this graph again. Now let me change the color. A firm will shut down in the short run whenever price falls below average cost. Let's see here, P1, at P1. Okay, this is P1. And at quantity Q, as you see here, is price lower than average variable cost? No. Average variable cost is here, P1 is here. So P1 is higher than average variable cost. Therefore, you should keep this business open. And if, for example, the price goes below P2, like here, if the price is determined here, then you should shut down because that price is lower than average variable cost and you cannot cover your even operating costs. So let's understand the short-run supply curve. You need to consider two things when you think about short-run supply curve. A firm maximizes profits when it produces at P is equal to MC and its variable costs are covered. A firm's short-run supply curve is that segment of its marginal cost curve above average variable cost curve. So let me draw here the curve. So we know that the market price, let's say it's P, and this is the marginal cost. And let's say this is the average variable cost. So the firm will not operate anything below the average variable cost. So anything above here is the short-run supply curve of the firm. The market's short-run supply curve is the horizontal summation of all the firm's short-run supply curves. So let's see these examples. Here, you see this is the short-run market supply curve. It's the summation of all marginal cost curves that are above the ABC. Remember what I said, the firm is going to produce here, starting from here. Let me change again the color. And anything above. This is the firm. And there's no production below P1. So the market short-run supply curve starts with P1, it's horizontal at P1 because there's no production below P1, and then it increases. So here you can find some questions that you can answer on your own. And now we are going to talk about long run, economic profits and entry. Because exit and entry are long run, exit and entry. So what is exit? Exit means you totally close out the business. You don't do it in the short run. In the long run, if you are not making profits, you are exiting the industry. How about entry? Again, in the long run, if an industry becomes profitable, many firms are going to start their business. So when you make exit decision, now you are comparing total revenue not only with variable cost, because everything is variable in the long run. You are comparing total revenue with total cost, okay? So if total revenue is greater than equal to total cost, then you don't not exit. But if your total revenue is less than total cost, then you should exit in the long run. Because you are not making for 10 years no profit. There's no reason to continue with that business. And remember, we can actually, let's see, this is one condition, not exist, and this is the exit condition. And we know that total revenue is P times Q, and we can divide by Q this section. And total cost divided by Q. So we divided by Q both sides. And now if you do that, you'll find out that price should be less than average total cost for you to exit. And another important point that I want to mention here, in the long run, economic profits are zero. But that doesn't mean that you are not making any profit. Economic profits include opportunity cost of all resources you use. So you get paid from the business. If you put capital in it, you get return from your investment. If you own the building for your business, you get return for your land. When economic profits are zero, you're not making abnormal returns. Okay, so your accounting profits are positive, you are making some money, but there is no abnormal return. You get just normal rate of return, what markets can give you with the resources you have if you haven't used these resources for the business. So if ATC exceeds price, firms will suffer an economic loss. Economic losses induce the exit of firms from the market and the reduction in the scale of operation of the remaining firms. As market supply decreases, price will rise to average total cost. Thus, profits and losses move the price toward a zero profit in long run equilibrium. So this is a dynamic competition process, right? If there is competition, it's possible that prices can go so much low that some firms can exit. But if some firms exit, then there is going to be reduction in the scale of operation of the remaining firms. Therefore, supply is going to shift left, which supply decreases, and price will rise back to, again, average total cost. Thus, you are going to reach to zero profit condition in the long run. So, the quantity supplied and quantity demanded must be equal in the market supply and the market demand curve intersects P1 and Q1. Given the market price, firms in the industry must earn zero economic profit. How do we understand that they earn zero economic profit? Look at here, at P1, the market price is P1, and the optimal point for them, profit maximizing point, is MC equals P1. At that point, MC equals P1, that is also equals to ATC, because at Q1, ATC is also P1. So, P1, you sell a product, you spend P1, so you are making zero economic profit per unit. In this slide, we are going to understand how we adjust to expansion in demand. Let's see, in this case, demand for toothpicks increases from D to D2. Right? It's a shift of the demand curve. When there is an increase, demand curve shifts to the right. Now the prices are P2. It was P1 before. So the market prices has changed, right, from P1 to P2. And what happens? Look what happens. At D1 and P1, the firms are making, this firm, single firm, is making zero economic profit. Because of the increase in prices, now this firm is making positive profits, right? MC and P2 intersects here. At Q2, go up to the ATC curve. This firm is making a positive economic profit. So if that is the case, what's going to happen if firms, other farmers or other people in the industry, and when other people in the industry sees that there is an abnormal profit opportunity, more firms are going to pop up, right? New firms are going to enter to the market, so the supply curve is going to shift to the right from here short run to S2. And look what happens with new demand curve and supply curve. Where's the price? Price goes back to P1. So again, this company returns back to zero economic condition. Okay, so what happens? Let's see one more time. When demand increases, prices increase. So industry is making profit, therefore more firms enter. And then supply curve increase and price goes back to initial position, and now zero economic profit. And now in the long run, economic profits are driven to zero, and the long run market supply curve here, as you see, this black line, represents a horizontal supply curve in the long run. Because whatever the adjustment in the short run, you are at the end producing at P1 price. That is the market equilibrium. So long run supply curve is horizontal at P1. If instead something causes market demand for toothpicks to decrease, now let's look at an adjustment to a decline in demand. This time D1 goes to D2 and the prices go down to P2 instead of P1. Look at that price. Q2 the firm is producing, but this Q2 the firm is making a loss because cost is here. Okay, producing cost this much, and P2 is here. So because of that, some firms are going to leave the industry, or some firms are going to reduce their capacity for production, and the supply curve is going to shift back, going to decrease. And because of the decrease in the scale of production, we go back again to P1 prices. So short-run losses cause some competitors to exit the market and others to reduce the scale of their operations, shifting the market supply curve from S1 to S2. And again, in the long run, we have zero economic profit, and in the long run, we see again horizontal long-run supply curve. There will be adjustments, but at the end, always the markets are going to come back to zero economic profit condition. But there are other long-run supply curves too. Constant cost industry where per unit costs remain unchanged as market output is expanded. occurs when the industry's demand for resource inputs is small relative to the total demand for the resources. The long-run market supply curve in a constant cost industry is horizontal in these markets. Increasing cost industry where per unit cost rises as market output is expanded, results because an increase in the industry output generally leads to stronger demand and higher prices for the inputs. The long-run market supply curve in an increasing cost industry is upward sloping. This is the most common type of industry. And we have decreasing cost industry where per unit cost decline as market output expands, implies either economies of scale exist industry or that an increase in the demand for inputs leads to lower input prices. The long-run market supply curve in a decreasing cost industry is downward sloping. Decreasing cost industries are rare. So you can see here increasing cost and long-run supply curve. Consider an increase in the market demand that leads to a higher market price, leading to short-run profits for firms. Economic profit entices some new firms to enter the market and others to increase the scale of the operation, shifting the market supply curve from S1 to S2. The stronger demand for resources inputs pushes the price up. Consequently, the firm's cost now higher. Instead of ATC1, now ATC2. Instead of MC1, it's MC2. So economic profits are eliminated, although the price shifts from P1 to P2 because of the increase in costs from ATC1 to ATC2 and MC1 to MC2. Economic profits are eliminated as the competitive process reaches equilibrium at price P3, which is less than P2. It's not P2 anymore, but it's not P1 anymore too. Because this is an increasing cost industry, expansion in market output leads to a higher equilibrium market price. Thus, the long-run supply curve is, as you see, the black one is upward sloping. So we are not ending up at P2 too, but we are not going back to P1. Because of increasing costs in the production, we end up somewhere here, P3. Now next we talk about supply elasticity and the role of time. In the short run, fixed factors of production such as plant size limit the ability of firms to expand output quickly. But in the long run, firms can alter plant size and other fixed factors of production. Therefore, the market supply curve will be more elastic in the long run than in the short run. Time and the elasticity of supply. So as the time passes, let's think about this example. Let's say that you see a huge increase in demand for rice production. In the short run, you cannot make too many changes, right? You do as much as from the acre of land you have. But in the long run, you can expand the land. You can buy more lands and produce more. So, or you can just turn some of the lands that doesn't use for rice into rice production. So the supply is more elastic. That means supply is going to get flatter and flatter when the time passes. So the slope of the market supply curve becomes flatter and flatter as the time horizon expands. And next we talk about role of profits and losses. Firms earn economic profit by producing goods that can be sold for more than the cost of the resources required for their production. Profit is a reward for production of a product that has greater value than the value of the resources required for its production. Losses are a penalty for the production of a good that consumers value less highly than the value of the resources required for its production. And competition promotes prosperity. Keys to prosperity. The competitive process provides a strong incentive for producers to operate efficiently and heed the views of consumers. Competition and the market process harness self-interest and use it to direct producers into wealth-creating activities. You have some questions here that you can answer on your own. And this is the end of chapter 22. Thank you.